guys, it's Special Rose here, and welcome back to another Mushy Monday. I know it's been a couple weeks since I did a Mushy Monday. Things have been great with school, so I've just been really hunkering down trying to get some stuff situated for these last few weeks of class, going into my final semester. So I'll be graduating and getting my degree, so that's awesome sauce for me. So I thank y'all for y'all patience. I can say right now, we're gonna go on the soiree. And then I got all of Derek's DLC. What's this? Thank you for purchasing Derek's DLC. Here you can play 5 new moments centered around Derek. He also has a special epilogue in step 4. To unlock it, you need to fill these conditions. Play all 5 of Derek's DLC moments. Completing Soirée with Cove or by going alone is alright, as long as you finish the moment. Choose to remain in touch with Derek during step 3. Then you will have the option to play Derek's epilogue during step 4. You can only have one epilogue per playthrough. You can make a save on the epilogue selection page, reload there, and pick another later. Derek's DLC can be friendship or romantic. And this is what Clover was talking about. Hi Clover, hope you're well. About whether or not I'm going to do another playthrough. So I may more than likely, I don't know how that'll work. They did say I can save, so I'll more than likely start from a save point and not completely start over. But without further ado, let's get into the soiree moment. You whiled away the morning, doing whatever stuck your fancy, and now you were recharging with lunch. Nothing on the horizon, you were free to spend as much or as little time on your plate as you wanted. It was while you were thinking on all the possibilities for your afternoon that your mom approached you. Hi, Rose. You okay? Mouthful, you nod and reply. To your surprise, they both sat with you at the table. Based on the time, you had wondered if they were joining you for a meal, but neither of them brought anything. Great, we wanted to have a little chat with you. The qualifier little did nothing to downplay the situation. You were chewing slowed as your eyes widened, looking from one parent to the other. Anything that required both of them to talk to you must be something big. You perked up, your mind full of exciting possibilities. A vacation maybe, or a pet, a revelation that they were actually undercover agents. You leaned in eager to learn more. There's a soiree at the Cypress tomorrow night. Your mom and I are going. The Cypress was the country club your moms were a part of, where Elizabeth played golf. It seemed like every other month they had some event or another, with all fancy names like soiree. You nodded eagerly, anxious for Mom to get to the good stuff. Mom chuckled at your poorly concealed reaction. Leaning in, Mom took your hand and squeezed it. We've decided to make the night a bit special. Elizabeth's going to be allowed to stay home, fully alone for the first time. You'll still be coming to the party with us. It's Elizabeth's night to party with no family around, not yours. Sorry, you've got to wait a couple more years. Bro. You were disappointed by the news. Crossing your arms over your chest, you leaned back in your seat. So much for the big talk. It was all about Elizabeth. Don't worry, we're not done yet. There's something in this for you. You were not yet convinced, but you gave your moms the benefit of the doubt and listened. Your parents shared a look across the table. You cleared your throat, reminding them that you were waiting. They couldn't keep dropping such hints and then turn coy when the conversation was about to get good.
Well,
It's this pretty fancy party that's still chaperoned, and attendees are allowed to bring a guest. We thought it might be nice an opportunity for you to invite someone yourself as a date if you want. Your eyes widened as the words sunk in. Your mom's continued, and it was a struggle to keep up. Even though we'll be at the party too, you don't need to worry about us getting in your way. You'll be free to eat, dance, and enjoy the music as you see fit, but no leaving the property. Mom nodded at Mom's interjection. Yes, as long as you don't leave the party, and if you'd rather bring just a friend, that's a-okay too. That's amazing. You must have lit up because your parents had shared an amused look again.
don't worry about it.
The soiree isn't until tomorrow, so you've got time. Just let us know your plans before we're heading out. And that's all. We'll leave you to your lunch now. Your moms rose from their chairs in unison, disappearing into another part of the house. You barely noticed their departure. All you could think of what just happened. The remnants of your lunch stared up at you from your plate. You were glad to go back to eating. You felt you should finish eating. The conversation had taken your mind off the meal, but you opted to try to eat a little more. You picked the plate up for a little while longer. Even though you relocated to your bedroom, your head was stuck on the conversation that had unfolded at the dining table downstairs. You knew that. You wanted it to be a date. The prospect of having your first date made it impossible to sit still. You couldn't help but jiggle your foot as you laid in your bed, contemplating the possibility. That night, being a date would mean actually asking someone out. The little you knew of that came from what you'd seen on TV and movies, and what you'd heard about from kids at school. Your moms hadn't even entertained the idea of you dating until now. You went over possible words and phrases in your head, setting up scenarios and smooth things before tearing them down and trying something else. You realized that you'd be picturing Cove as the one you were asking. You buried your face in your pillow, not wanting to continue after noticing. You smiled and closed your eyes as the daydream crystallizing in your head. You let your train of thought continue a little longer. You clearly pictured his eyes, the way he rubbed his arm, and when he was nervous and tried your best to guess what he might do next. It was nice. You liked him. You always liked him a lot. You wouldn't be able to stop thinking about them, even if you wanted to. And you didn't. Sighing, you shifted positions on the bed, resting your arm on the windowsill. A flocking of birds caught your eye and led your gaze as they crossed the sky. You watched the birds grow smaller and less distinct until they disappeared from sight. Like the snap of a hypnotist's fingers, you were released from the trance and left with a goal of your own. You were going to have to take a walk. Oh my God, are we going right now to ask him? You ambled through the familiar streets of your neighborhood, picking your path at a whim. It was quiet as ever, with tourists choosing to congregate in the shopping area near the beach rather than venture into the sleepy residential zones. You continued down the road, and as soon as you found yourself at the shore, the fresh, salty air hit you first, rolling to meet you over the grassy dunes that tickled your legs, followed by the familiar view of the sea stretching out across the horizon. You came at a halt. The lone figure was standing in the ocean. The water reached up to his knees. Though he had his back to you, you recognized the familiar silhouette as Cove's. It made sense that you'd find him here. He always was in his element by the sea. You had no idea if he heard your arrival, or if it was a coincidence that he looked over his shoulder. Your eyes met. You confidently headed closer. You hadn't known you'd find Cove out in the wild, but since you had, you definitely wanted to make the most of it. You strode over to him without hesitation. Cove smiled at you, bathed in the soft light of the afternoon sun, with his hair gently tousled by the sea breeze. He looked especially charming. He then fully turned around and began to waddle through the water over to the shore. You wanted him to get to you already? You could hardly wait to talk about this. I hope he took his time to come over. You were relaxed after running into him. You were all right with all of this. It just felt nice to have come across Cove right at that moment. The question of whether to invite him, and if so, in what fashion, was in front of you, between leaping into the world unknown or enjoying the safety of the familiar. Hey Rose, are you free right now? Not exactly. Moms are taking me to a soirée tomorrow, the country club. It was kind of a strange segue, but you wanted to get right to the point. A soirée, huh? Sounds exciting. He smiled politely, but you could tell that your outing mention hadn't sparked much interest. He didn't come to much of a surprise. That didn't come as much of a surprise to you. Formal affairs and big gatherings weren't some of his least favorite things, but you were sure he'd attend if you were the one who invited him. You only had to do it. Cove tilted his head curiously at you. I did not have to ask him at all. You resolved to make it a date. Cove continued to watch you expectantly. It was kind of thrilling to keep him in suspense. Rose? Oh my God. Cove, I want you to be my date for the party. You spoke your thoughts clearly. Caught off guard, he lifted his hands in front of his chest out of surprise. Then he backed them down and across over his chest. He twisted his face to the side, no longer able to meet your eyes. He still couldn't hide the flush on his cheeks.
Oh my God.
Are you serious? I'm serious as something serious. It's very serious, is what I'm saying. His lips were pressed tightly together, preventing any more words from slipping out. You could tell that he was nervous, but this was always easy to pick up on. But after another moment, he inclined his head, dipping it in a nod so slightly that you might have missed it, that you've been able to tear your eyes from off of him. Really? Cove closed his eyes, trapped in his awkward pose. He was gripping his arm so tightly that his skin around his knuckles were fully taut. Are you okay? Cove exhaled at last, letting out a sigh that stretched into another tense silence. His stance loosened. His arms stayed across his chest, but he was no longer clutching them like a shield. He didn't want to be the one to break the quiet. Thanks, Rose. I guess I'm gonna have to tell my dad and mom too. Right. I gotta let my moms know you're going. Can you come with me? Yeah. It was a relief that he thought enough to manage to speak again. You hope that by the time you got to your house, he'd probably be able to manage full sentences once more. I love this song. Oh my gosh. Cove went to where he discarded his things in the sand, tugging a shirt over his head and slipping on a pair of shoes before joining you and setting off home. The two of you stepped inside in front of the door of your house. It was an action you'd taken together countless times, but your stomach had never churned quite like this on previous occasions. At the sound of the door opening, your moms poked their heads into the hall. Hello. Cove, it's you. What a surprise. She chuckled at her own joke. Cove was always there. She knew how close the two of you were. Bringing anyone other than him back would have been an actual surprise. Hi, Mrs. Smith. So I take it Cove's going to be our guest for tomorrow night? Yep. What kind of outing will he be? Her voice was hesitant but serious. Cove ducked his head down reflexively. You knew that he'd figure out what she was driving at. It's a date. Mom nodded in understanding. She wore a whimsy smile. I was going to be thrilled about this. Cove tilted his head back just slightly. He peeked through the long strands of his hair. Just her? Mrs. Smith? Even though I'd been able to see his wide, worried eyes, you'd had heard his anxiety in his voice. Your mom sighed and patted him on the arm. Oh, Cove, you're a great kid. Most parents hope that their kids meet such a special person someday. She glances aside, a weary expression on her face. Someday is the real key word there. She turned back to you both, but you just had to move in right across the street at 8 years old. Mom crouched down, shaking her head, and put her hand on each Cove's shoulders. Cove, I hope you're planning on being very good to Rose, and I'm not just talking about tomorrow night. She nudged him playfully on the cheek with a fist. Cove, who had been blushing when all this began, was now red as a heirloom tomato. Okay, yeah, I was, or will. You don't have to worry. Cove's definitely going to be good to me. There was a teasing tone in your voice between you and your mom. Cove was defenseless. He didn't speak further. I don't know what it is, but I'm not gonna lie. This game really touched my heart. I know I'm straying off of subject here, but it's just so cute, and I just enjoy the moments here, just living through those through our character. I just love how they tell their stories. He didn't speak further. His eyes looked locked down on his shuffling feet as he rubbed the scar on his arm. The redness remained intact. Okay, we've put Cove through the ringer enough. Big day isn't even here yet. You laughed and nodded along. There was still plenty of time to have fun. I'll give you folks a call and get everything squared away. Oh, his folks will call, right? She headed off to the phone, leaving the two of you alone. Cove's eyes darted to you, and he shot you a quick, delicate smile before staring at the ground again. I'm gonna cross the street and talk to my parents. Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye, Cove. He retreated from the house entryway without another word, and the rest of the afternoon passed by just like that. Back in your room, your mind was alight with visions of tomorrow night. The soiree was something, but not nearly as exciting as going on your first date. You were thrilled that Cove had actually said yes, that he was your genuine date to a party. You hugged your knees to your chest, overawed by the thought the night couldn't come soon enough. The evening of the soiree had arrived. Oh, the daylight hours had slipped away in the blur. Up in your bed, and you were getting ready for the big event. That was your intention, at least, but you hadn't settled on an outfit. Stationed in front of your wardrobe, you scanned over the clothing you had at your disposal. Though Ma had mentioned this event was a bit dressier than normal get-together, you didn't necessarily have to comply. You wonder how Cove might feel about your outfit. You couldn't help but consider how he would respond to the way you were dressed. Would he like seeing you dressed all fancy, or would he reinforce the weirdness of the situation? Your mind drifted across the street. Was Cove going through the same steps right now? Staring at his wardrobe, trying to decide what to wear? You had no idea if he would dress up for the occasion himself, or if he wear his usual attire. It would be so much easier if you knew what he was going to do. Oh. You didn't want to look like you were taking it too seriously. You didn't want to come across too excited. You wanted him to see you in a new light. You looked for something formal. You attempted to decide between a nicer pieces in your wardrobe and the ones that really had a chance to come out. You decided to dress formally because you were dressing to impress. You honestly liked dressing up. There was something magical about the sheen of an elegant fabric and a cut of formal wear, something that transformed everyone into a more sophisticated version of their normal self. To start the decision to wear a dress, the one you picked was light and had sheen, silky material seemed to glide through your fingers as you looked at it from the wardrobe. It was a perfect fit for a summer evening party. You began to get dressed and your fingers were stiff, zipping in the awkward fastenings. It felt different against your skin, reminding you every movement that you were wearing, you were dressed up. Whatever happened tonight, you were pleased that you had gotten the opportunity to wear this. Now dressed, you gave yourself a final glance over before heading downstairs, ready to head out. You found your moms already waiting in the living room. They were putting the finishing touches on their outfits. Ma strapping her heels into a stiletto shoe and Mom trying to fasten a bracelet single-handed. Oh, look at them! They looked up at you as you entered. Oh, Rose, you look so nice, don't you think, Pam? Thanks for dressing up, Rose. I hope the party will be prepared for your arrival. You look sharp. Mom was still struggling with her bracelet. You lent a hand, literally, by taking one side and holding it as she secured the clasp. Thanks, kiddo. Mom then glanced over at the clock on the wall, seeing where the hands were pointing. Frown creased her face. When's Cove gonna be here, do you know? He's getting here at 7. Mom pursed her lips as she stared at the hand ticking on the clock. All right, if he's not here in 5, I'll give his house a call. Elizabeth filtered down the stairs and her eyes narrowed. You're still here? Yes, but not for much longer, hopefully. Wait, I know you're excited, but we haven't even said goodbye. And we want to go over how things are going to play out. Elizabeth sighed as Mom began listing rules and ticking them off of her fingers. No ordering takeout or other deliveries. You can't have anyone else come over. Ugh. She nodded, resigning her fate, listening to a set of rules she could predict without as so much as a glance at a crystal ball. If anything happens, you can call us or go across the street to the Holdens. Keep the noise down. The house might be empty, but there are people all around the neighborhood. Usually Mom's rules still apply. Don't do anything you wouldn't do if we were here. And we'll be back no later than 11:30 p.m. But we'll call if there are any issues. So don't tie up the phone line all night. Right? All done. Can I go now? Ma strolled over and swept Elizabeth up in a hug. Your sister let out a small noise. Her eyes widened and suddenly looked much less like a smug teenager she acted like. You're such a big girl now. I can't believe it. Elizabeth rolled her eyes. This wasn't a quick departure that she had been hoping for. Any chance of it ending soon vanished as Mom joined in the hug. Neither can I. It feels like it was only yesterday that Elizabeth groaned, trying to cut the reminiscing off without success. He joined in the hug. Mom and Ma held her arms out to you as you approached, welcoming you into hug. Elizabeth whined, eager for this to come to an end already. You all let go, jeez. Your family disentangled from the hug. Your family disentangled from the hug in time to catch the doorbell ringing. Oh, the guest of honor is here. She raced over to the door as Mom predicted Cove had arrived and he was ushered inside. You look very nice, Cove. Oh, look at him! Oh! Cove froze for a moment before acting as if nothing had been said. He looked around the room, searching for a way out of the conversation before his eyes met yours. Cole's lips squeezed into a smile as You reciprocated the tension and his face seemed to ease. You watch him, taking in your outfit before glancing away bashfully. Hi. Hi, Cole. You look really nice tonight. I'm glad we got to do this. Going to places dressed up, I mean. His words took you by surprise, but after the early worries you had about your appearance, they were welcome balm from your nerves. A calm balm for your nerves. You attempted to control the grin spreading across your face. The small statement had made a big impact. That's crazy. You look wonderful. Cove had held his arms tight against his body, shielding himself from such an over declaration of approval. He opened his mouth as if to respond, but then closed it again, speechless. Now that Mom had finished reiterating the rules to Elizabeth, who then scurried off to the sanctuary of her room, she came over to greet Cove. Hi, Cove. Nice to have you along for the ride. Thank you for letting me come. You're welcome. It's no problem. You're always welcome. Mom's eyebrows rose in 2 lines of concern. Let's all remember that for the foreseeable future, we'll be neighbors who have to see each other every day. Cove looked helplessly at your mom. Luckily, Mom came over and rescued him. Aw, the cautious sort, sweetie. You don't need to look so worried. Mom smiled reassuringly. You didn't intend to scare him. Mom landed a hand on her shoulder. You should get to the car. There's nothing fashionable about being late. As you made to follow your moms, Cove held out a hand. Pausing, you waited for an explanation. He wilted under the force of your attention and letting out a long sigh. Both my mom and dad insisted that since this is a... He paused, pushing his hair back from his burning face, and forced himself to continue. This is a date, a kind of fancy party. I need to bring something. For you, for inviting me. The conclusion of the story caught you by surprise. You blinked, unsure if you're slacked too much of your own preparations for tonight. You got me a present? Not really, just this. Cole reached behind himself to take something out of a back pocket. His hand returned to view. He's holding a single small rose by the stem. He threw his gaze on the floor, shyly inching his hand closer to you. Oh, it's my favorite. He twitched even so slightly. Was that on purpose? You remember my favorite flowers and got one for me? His voice cracked under the strain of being confronted on what he had done. Yeah, that's what I did. You're so wonderful. He sputtered a weak laugh out of sheer anxiousness rather than humor. I'm not, you're the one who... No, I think you are. Okay. He didn't have it in him to continue his conversation, even if that meant not being able to refute your assessment. You accepted the flower from him. Cole straightened himself out in response. But we're going to be late if we keep standing here. Right, we better hurry. This is so stinky cute. You pulled up to the country club. The sun had sunk deep into the horizon, the last of its light sleepily warming the oncoming night. Your moms led the way to the space around the back where the event was being held. The place had been transformed through decoration with the smart tablecloths and elegant ribbons contributing to the festive atmosphere. The musicians, dressed in matching black and white, were setting up their instruments and flicking through pages of sheet music, and as promised, there was a table covered in plates of carefully prepared food. Destinations reach your parents, rounded on you and Cove. Things haven't kicked off yet, but don't let that stop you from enjoying yourselves. Have fun. We'll be around if you need us. See you later. Bye. Cove waved your moms off. Once they retreated a distance away, you found him watching you expectantly. But no, it wasn't a question, but a plea for help. You could tell that he definitely didn't know what to do with himself in this situation. Well, have to wait for some things to start, like the band, but there's stuff going on already. Cove perked up at that. Oh, you want to do any of those, whatever they are? No, he's so cute. Introduce Cove to people in your country club. I know most of these people because I've been brought here a lot over the years. You can meet them. He frowned. Talking with strangers was not genuinely his preferred activity. It doesn't matter if you make a good impression or not. They'll be curious about you no matter what. You beckon him over to follow you and meet other guests. Most of the attendees skewed significantly older and are considered younger than the two of you, with only a few people around your age. Despite this apprehension, Cove was cordial in his interactions. Not that there weren't any difficulties. Sorry, could you repeat your name? It's Cove. Cove? They rolled the words over their tongue, clearly surprised. How unusual, but lovely, of course. As you expected, there was interest in who you brought to the party and what your relationship with him was. Rose, it's good to see you. Is this your date? Well, yes. The resulting coup from the group made it difficult to keep a straight face. Still, some people focus on the important things, how you were dressed. Don't you look snappy in that outfit? You scrubbed up well. With the basic niceties taken care of, you moved on to something else to pass the time. You checked the snacks at the refreshment table. You can go eat some food now, even if the music hasn't started yet. That's okay? It's not too soon? Oh, wouldn't really mind. Oh, you simple nod. Okay, let's go. The two of you wandered over to the refreshment table. With it being early in the night, you had barely touched the plates. They were nearly pristine as they would have left the kitchen. The offerings were tiny and bite-sized, all ready to be picked up and sampled. It was immediately apparent that there were plenty to choose from. Just from the level of care with which it was presented, it was clear that this was a fancy stuff. Host stared at one plate, then another, confused. I think I know some of these? This is good stuff. It is? Yeah. You picked one of the nearby morsels up and presented it in front of Cove to observe. It looks like a slice of the world's smallest loaf of bread with stuff on top. It has to be small so you got room to try a lot of different things. Cove's eyes were wide as you guided him through what was on offer. It made you feel sophisticated. Cove squared his shoulders as he geared up for a match. I'm gonna try it. He picked up a plate and took one appetizer, then another, and soon he realized he was taking one of every single type. Are you taking everything? Why not? I'll join in sampling everything. You might be stuffed afterwards. What was the problem in your future self? Right now, you were going to enjoy the feast till the full. Nibble his way through everything the place had. The results of his endeavor were mixed. He was revolted by some of the things he tried, openly screwing up his face and rushing to find a drink to wash the taste away. Yet these bad experiences did not stop him from puffing on, moving on to the next snack with an open mind. There were some foods he was neutral about, dismissing them with a shrug, but best of all, there was his reaction when he stumbled across something good. Each time caught him by surprise, his expression morphing from wary curiosity to skeptical interest before making way to astonished enjoyment. Regardless of how he felt about what he was concurrently eating, he could tell he was having a good time just being free to eat whatever he laid his eyes on. You thought that was nice too. After going through the rounds of sampling, you moved on to something else. You took a seat to relax. We should pick out a table. Okay. You found a place to sit on the edge of the party area, where it was quieter with fewer people bustling around. You pulled out a chair and sat down, Cove already seated with stretching. These clothes are kind of uncomfortable. He flexed her arm at the elbow, frowning, before twisting it back behind him. Yeah? My arms can't move the same as normal. Like, I'm gonna rip it off if I do anything. I think it suits you. Really? Oh, thanks. He toyed with one of his cuffs of his shirt, wedging a finger between the fabric and his skin. Watching him struggle against his clothes, you thought back to how apprehensive you'd been about selecting your outfit. I had a really hard time choosing what I was going to wear. You did? I can't see you looking bad no matter what, but I know what you mean. Cove breathed past the high praise he had just casually given and looked for long and down at his shirt. I felt really weird doing something for this too, but did your moms tell you what to wear? No, Mom just told me it was a fancy sort of thing. That's nice. He settled down in his seat just a bit. Now that you had a spot of your own, you stayed chatting with Cove at the table. In no time, all the sunset is in full, lights faded in, and the opening notes of the band's first song rang out. You and Cole stopped what you were doing, turned to contemplate the party that had been steadily unfurling while you were distracted. It was much busier now, both in terms of people and activity. The first steps were taken into the dance floor, some tentative, others eager, and even if the band hadn't been playing, the constant level of chatter would have ensured that it wasn't a quiet night. With the party now in full swing, your options had increased. You asked Cole to dance. Cove, can I have the pleasure of your company on the dance floor? Really? He blurted the word out without thinking. He clamped his hand over his mouth before anything else could slip out. Really? Cole sucked in a breath as he's trying to inhale confidence as well as oxygen into his lungs. He gave a single serious nod before holding a trembling hand out towards you. You felt confident. You were at ease with Coles and had nothing to fear from a dance. Quite the contrary, you stood tall, ready to make an impression. Took Cole's outstretched hand. His skin was hot and damp. You squeezed it, giving him a reassuring smile. And together you carefully made your way onto the dance floor. You took your places standing before each other, hands still entwined. Frowning, Cove assessed the situation, trying to puzzle it out like a math problem before putting his remaining free hand on your shoulder. You were happy with that. Cove was comfortable with the stance and was thirsty. Cove was comfortable with this stance, and the arrangement was good for you too. Cove towered over you. You long before aware for your height differences, but readying yourself to dance and brought them to the forefront once more. Cove awkwardly glanced down at you from the corner of his eye, looking almost apologetic. The music had begun. You both moved eagerly, trying to catch up to it, but your feet took you in opposite directions. Bumping, two of you shuffled from side to side, attempting to mirror each other's movements, but always winding up in opposite. It was difficult, Cole struggling to just coordinate his own limbs to the rhythm, let alone matching your movements. Cole's foot ghosted over yours. It was decided it'd be safest for everyone if you simply swayed with the tune. You rooted yourself on the floor, your torso gently moving to the sounds. Gratefully, Cove kept his movements small and subtle in the same way. All was fine for a little while. You weren't going to win any dance accolades with Cove, but it didn't matter when you were treasuring just being so close to him. Cove stepped away to sync with the music knocking against you. You flinched back, nearly pulling you over in the process. Took a hand from him and held it up, halting proceedings so you could both get your bearings once more. Dancing is harder than I thought. Instead of feeling better over the mutual struggle, Cove looked off. Yeah. Then you took Cove's hand once more, gingerly resumed swaying to the music. Cove reluctantly followed suit, his steps small and apprehensive. He mumbled something quietly. This is a long song. You weren't sure how to take that, whether it meant that something was wrong or if Cove didn't really like dancing or if he didn't like dancing with you specifically. It made the last couple of minutes of the song uncomfortable as you weighed up what to do and what to say to Cove. When the musicians laid their instruments down, Cove dropped her hands as if they were burning him. Straight off the dance floor so quickly as he could without breaking into an outright run. You caught up. He said nothing. He tried to get him into doing something else, but stealing anything from him was not possible. You focused over Cove, wondering how he was finding the evening. He sighed. It was quiet and unobtrusive that you wouldn't have caught it if you hadn't been watching it. His gaze was roaming. With how far away his eyes seemed, whatever he was searching for couldn't be found at this party. He turned to face you before he could say anything. I want to sit down. You can do that. Cove began to move and you essentially followed him. Yet instead of taking a seat on one of the many tables, you expected Cove ignored them as he purposely strolled out of the party area. Where are you going? Your call didn't seem to register with him as he continued forward onto the greens of the golf course. You went after him, trying to watch out for the uneven ground underfooting. The clouds of earth dislodging in the games of golf were perfectly snatching unwary feet in the daylight. Up ahead, Cove didn't appear to have any difficulty traversing uneven land. He settled down on one side of the hill golf course. You joined him, still unsure over what was going on. Are you all right? And why are we here? Cove stared as if he could act on instinct, and your question brought him a reality again. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm okay. It's nice over here. You weren't arguing with the statement, but it's hardly answered your question. It would have to do for now. Go back to the party. You didn't budge from your spot. From here, the party was just glowing haze in the distance. You didn't want to leave him behind. I'm not going to leave you here, and I'm not going to drag you back if you don't want to. Thanks. Now that Cove was more at ease, you tried to find out what had caused him to take flight in the first place. Even thinking the words pained you, but you had to know the answer. Did going to the party with me make you uncomfortable? Logically, you knew that the issue was likely the activity rather than your company. Your heart strained with worry that you may have been at fault, though. Was it because I made you dance? His abrupt departure from that was another indicator that something had gone awry. No, oh. He shook his head pathetically. It was not anything I did tonight. It's definitely not anything you did. Relief overcame you and you suspected as much, but with this being your very first date, it would be hard to be sure. Cove attempted to fill in the gaps of understanding. I don't want to think about going back into the party. I just feel ready to go home. Did I get my mom's? I don't remember their night. Cove sat there quietly. I wonder what happened. Cove sat there quietly, gazing out of the shadowy hills and valley of the golf course. A comfortably warm wind rustled between you, tossing his hair. It was far away from the hub of the party. You could even make out a quiet sound of crickets chirping. It's kind of like how we first met, don't you remember? Of course I do. Well, how could I forget? You'd always liked him, even from the very first day. It's so weird. That was a long time ago now. You thought back to the day when Cove first arrived in the neighborhood, had run away from Mr. Holden, taking solace in the hills behind your house. That had been late too. On a clear night like today, looking at the sky, you wondered if the stars that were looking down were the same ones then. Cove's face was brighter, though you could still see signs of the strain that had caused him to depart from the soiree. When he'd first sat down, he could curl up like a pill bug, hunched over, knees pressed to his chest, and arms wrapped around. He unwound as if, talking, straightening up, and his hands free. Hands free. It was as though the two of you had constructed your own little world away from everything else, and he was beginning to perk up. The small smile had crept into his face and quickly ushered away by a frown. I can't believe I'm on a date. Cole followed up with a statement before you could react. He spoke in a distinct whisper tone, as though you were the only one in the world who could share these words with him. After I said I wanted to come, I wanted to take it back, not because I really didn't want to, but because I don't know. It seemed like a big deal. It made me feel bad somehow. I started feeling like I couldn't do it, even though I wanted to do it. I guess it was sort of like having to give a presentation in front of a class, even though it was just me and you doing something like we always do. He charged on, his words streaming out. I still could do it because thinking about not being there, you and being there and you, and what you might think if I take it back, made me feel way worse than whatever else I felt. I'm sorry, Rose. I'm sorry I can't just deal with stuff like this. I have to make everything so complicated. I don't want you here. I don't want to be here. You don't need to apologize. And then took his hand. His skin was cool to the touch, his fingers coiled delicately around yours. He finally moved his head to look you straight on and eyes met yours. Thanks for inviting me, Rose. You stared back at him, not comprehending. But did it make you feel bad? Yeah, it did. When I had to think about how I was actually doing it. But getting to hear that you made me come made me feel good. He flushed and had to break fragile eye contact made. I wanted to keep doing things with you no matter what, even if I feel weird sometimes. I don't want to stop being there. I don't want you to stop wanting me there. Because when I do whatever it is for real and you're with me, it feels better in the end. It always does. You felt a tug on your hand and found Cove in the process of standing up. You joined him on your feet. You tilted your head in an unspoken question. Cove smiled awkwardly, brushing some grass off the side of his pants.
Wanna dance with me?
Oh! You wanna dance with me? You already danced with me. I didn't think you had a good time. It's the dance party, right? And I think he trailed off, brow furrowed, as if he was trying to figure out the answer himself. Nodding slowly, he continued. I think I want to dance with you again before it's over. With the only words he had explained gone, He just held up his hand to you. His expression was soft. I want to dance with you too. Then you reached for his hand and took it in yours once more. Cove bit his lip as your fingers entwined together, his cheeks reddening. You returned hand in hand with the party, reaching the end of a long evening. Dancing couples had begun to scare. One pair among them were hard to notice, but the space around you would act as a spotlight. Not that there were many left to watch you. He was still at ease, and buoyed by the dissipated crowd. He was still at ease, even buoyed by the dissipated crowd. This time there was a spring in his step as you walked into the dance floor together. Both kept hold of the hand you had given him back in the little hill. He rested the other hand on your shoulder. Both hesitated while you waited for a sign. With the song in progress, before you stepped onto the dance floor, there was no signal for the night moment to begin. The same thought occurred to Cole. You shrugged his shoulders with being formed. Taking that as your starting point, you cautiously began to sway. Covertly followed your example. You danced wordlessly, dimly aware of the music guiding you. You were focused on Cove, and those attentions were firmly fastened on you. Unlike before, and he nervously looked down at his feet and trying to keep them in check, his eyes were steady. He didn't even allow himself to be shaken when your knees knocked against each other, and you both briefly fumbled your steps. Instead, he chuckled, and it was soft as a roll of the morning tide. His lips curled into a shy crescent. You had been drifting into a dreamlike state with that expression that one you'd ever seen before, pinned you back to reality. Your heart was caught in a clench and held tight, and yet straining with the effort of thumping harder than it had after any amount of physical exertion. As if in response, his hand began to hold yours with increasing strength and pulled you ever so slightly towards him. Thoughts about it, what it meant, and what might happen when it was over eased. Oh my God. And both of you were able to simply have this dance. Time flew away as you looked into the small moments. All too soon, the song reached its conclusion. You could have continued quite contently for some time more. You stilled one of your hands in his. Cove showed no sign of movement either. It was hard to let go. You heard your name called out and brought the dance truly to an end. You both spun to find Mom yelling for you and Cove. Beside her, Mom was shaking her head. It's time to go home. Lonnie, I had to get a hold of them somehow. What did you want me to do? Sneak up on them? Her chosen method was admittedly better than that. You still winced at how dazed she had been when she announced her arrival. Cove looked so embarrassed that you were seriously worried about him fleeing again. This time, you didn't think he'd stop until it was off of grounds. Despite Cove's reaction to the scene, your mom's, to you, it had been a perfect ending to the evening. You were so glad you got a chance to dance with Cove once more before the night was over. And it definitely was over now. You didn't need to say anything to Cove. The two of you wordlessly over to your parents, who were still bickering playfully. Standing shoulder to shoulder, your parents surveyed you and Cove. You wondered if they were checking that they were returning Mr. Holden's son in the same state that they had left the house. It was quite the night, huh, gang? Wasn't it just? Cove vanished a self-conscious smile. Yeah. Mom was smiling too, with an expression so soft it could have cradled a newborn chick. And how was your very first date? Still start on them already. It technically hasn't even ended yet. Fine. Good. Well, we better get ready ourselves to get back to Elizabeth. We're lucky the house might still be standing. Oh, hush. She swatted your mom playfully, laughing at the comment. You casted one last look at the party. You saw people exchange farewells and suppressing yawns. Most of the faces, they were happy ones, despite the weariness that was starting to creep in. Cove's head was angled away from you. As you watched, wondering what he was looking at, he came around to meet your gaze. It was strange, though it had only been a few hours of your life. You felt a little older as a result of attending the party. It was like stepping away from the world of your childhood, where dressing up is reserved almost exclusively as a form of play towards something new that you hadn't yet grasped. Turning away from the final moments of the party, you shoved that thought for another time as your moms eagerly led the way back to the car. When Cole tailed after them, you felt childlike once more. That was so stinking cute. Okay, guys, that was Soirée. I thank y'all for joining me on this Mushy Monday. Please don't forget to like and subscribe so I can bring you more content. The more you like and subscribe and interact, the better it helps my family. So I appreciate you watching my video, and I'll catch you next Monday. Bye.